And then they started digging around in there, and I didn't quite like it. There was something about it that was just intrusive.
Kobe, of
Hi.
course, talking about the first time he was penetrated by his
Ooh,
local priest. Hi, I'm
Oh.
Dan. Welcome to the Slalt Cast. I will be your host this evening. I'm joined today by the illustrious, the magnificent, the wonderful, the hiding
Yes.
behind his ultimately shittily designed pop filter. It's Kobe.
It is I.
We had
I'm
a fantastic
keep my mouth
pre-show chat about how terrible that pop filter that everyone owns is.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to catch that pre-show, Kobe, well, you can't catch it now, you fucking idiots. You missed it. But if you wanted to catch next week's pre-show, where would they go?
They would go to, I'm typing it in my browser now, twitch.tv/SLALTCAST, one word.
That's right, twitch.tv/Slaltcast, where you can catch these episodes streamed live every Wednesday, asterisk, every when we do them. We did say 2 weeks ago we were going to be returning to weekly episodes.
Yep.
However, we then subsequently recorded one of the worst episodes in the podcast history, so we decided to take a week off.
Yeah. There's a weird balance I feel doing the podcast now, where we won, right? You and I are fairly similar in our approach to this, but and I guess Caden too, but the one other member, which is Joseph, and this isn't me bagging Joseph out
It
at all.
sounds like you bagging Joseph out.
I am bagging Joseph
I
out. He
knew
is
it.
getting a point on the board. It's one for Joseph.
Oh, I'm not the only
he's
one
not
with
even
a point.
here. He's not even here.
Oh, imagine getting AFK points.
No, but there's something weird about all of our interests and what we kind of want to talk about. And Caden, I think, is the most flexible because you will put a topic in front of him and he will talk.
Yeah. Well, so I think what's happened is we in high school, because we were forced to spend so much time together on a daily basis, the Venn diagram was kind of forcibly smushed in terms of our interests. But then high school ended and we all went off on our own diverging paths. And slowly but surely, the Venn diagram has started to separate. And there's still like a very generous area in the center where we all overlap in interest. But our primary interests lie in the outer parts of the Venn diagram.
Yes.
And not necessarily, and then sometimes it's yours and Caden's music would be one of your primary interests, and that's in your guys' Venn diagram, and then it's on the edge of mine and Joseph's Venn diagrams, and then me with fucking software, none of your Venn diagrams, so we don't talk about that. But then also the MCU and Marvel and stuff, that's bang on, and that's also on the edge of your guys' Venn diagrams. So
I mean, I like that stuff.
Yeah, but you could admit not to nearly the same degree that I'm into it.
Oh yeah, no, it's an interesting thing, and I think there definitely is a social study on it, but how you are kind of forcing people to become friends when you put them in a situation like school, For 6 years, we had to be around each other forcibly, and we could leave. I guess there is that option of switching schools, but it's the same problem. And for an even shorter period of time, you have to adapt to the people around you again. And I was reading something on Reddit. It was an Ask Reddit thread about how did you know a friend that you had became a fake friend. And reading those comments, it was man, am I actually a good friend? Do I ever just check up on people? Because I feel like that's something that we should do, but I haven't ever.
See, I am gonna blame my social anxiety and take no responsibility for not doing it ever. No, I've definitely. Well, okay, here's. I'll throw this back at you. I'm gonna tie it up in a little with a little bow and throw it right back at you. Okay, have you DM'd anyone out of the blue since the end of high school? Not someone in our immediate circle. But have you?
I want to. I feel like the closest person that I have done that with semi-regularly. By semi-regularly, I mean once or twice is Lauren, superfan Lauren.
Ex superfan. There's no
ex superfan.
We can't confirm or deny whether or not she's still a superfan.
If she replies to
okay, fuck it. I'm putting all of the cards on the table. Okay, here's what I have to say about Lauren. This is so mean. Look, for 9 strong episodes, she supported us, okay, and we recognize that. And then a moment in the sun came on episode 10, and then she got the moment of fame, and then thought she was better than us, and was never a fan again. And that's why Lawrence will never be on this fucking podcast, because we can't let him get too big for his boots. Lauren, we love you. It's just a joke. We understand that that doing literally anything is a better use of your time than listening to this podcast. We appreciate all of you who listen.
Yes.
But yeah, that's my gripes with Lauren. But no,
it's an interesting thing. There are times where like somebody will, like, I'll think of a funny joke to say because I am a jokey man. I'm a jokey bloke, as they say. Yeah, I am a joke. When somebody posts a story or something like that, but I'm always like,
so that's the kind of the furthest I've gone is like pop up to someone's like Insta story or something.
Yeah, see, I've
like
never done
if someone's done something that's like fairly directly relevant to my life, I'll be like, oh, that's kind of cool. I saw, for example, like someone I used to do karate with, and then like we haven't kind of spoken in a couple of years, has recently started like Twitch streaming. And I was like, oh shit, that's kind of fire. So I like DM'd him. I jumped into his stream chat, and I was like, oh, hey, that's kind of cool. I didn't say I stream too. He knew it. I was like, oh my god. Like, don't you think? Okay, side tangent. Don't you think it's kind of weird that we're like keeping up to date with the lives of people we went to high school with, even though we'll probably never go out of our way to speak to them ever again? Like, I know that people are like getting engaged and have kids, but I don't care about that person at all. And there's probably shit in my life that they know just from seeing like my social presence, but they don't actually give a fuck at all.
Yeah,
that's weird. Anyway, but yeah, so like I
don't think so. To piggyback up. Oh, sorry, you're gonna finish.
I was gonna say, like, I went into his stream chat and was like, talk to him there, and then like we've been DMing like a little bit recently. Like, oh, that's cool. That's like a connection that's kind of picked up again after like 4 years.
Yeah. Well, to say that, I was actually I've written a song about this actually. In fact, funnily enough, it's a
God, you're
song.
Such a prolific artist, Kobe.
It's like, you know, I had a friend when I was in primary school, and I read on social media recently, and for some reason, right. The last time I had any sort of meaningful interaction with this person was when we were 8, when we were in year 3, and then she moved schools, right? And then, weirdly enough, right, incel Kobe has existed since he was basically 9, because they will always just, like, nobody else that I have ever met, right, will like pop up in my mind as frequently for like just the random reasons. Like, for example, like last year, I saw that some of our friends from old friends from high school, became like, I saw them post a photo dump on Instagram, and then she was in there, and I'm like, wow, that's weird, right? And it's like how weirdly close somebody that you don't know, right, can be somebody that you knew that you haven't spoken to in over a decade has like sort of become. And I'm sort of like,
it's like small world.
Can I message that person and be like, hey, wow, that's really crazy. We are different people. Like, we are effectively, there is a span of time between knowing someone and not knowing someone where you become strangers.
Well, and especially during like the post end of high school, like it's kind of when we all become more defined in who we are in a way. Like everyone starts kind of pursuing what they want to pursue and pursuing their own interests, and you're not being forced into high school. Like you kind of have like the higher degree of freedom then. So yeah, people like become who they are.
Like, some people go to jail.
Has anyone from our high school gone to jail?
Yes. I'll tell you after.
That can you? This is gonna kill me. You're gonna have to DM me.
Okay. But yeah, continue to talk.
But no, I say 100% what you mean, and I've definitely seen shit like that where it's like kind of like, wow, I would never have pictured that person would be in this situation with these people, which like tangentially relates to me, and like reaching out would be a pretty pog thing to do, but also I like talking to people's hard.
Yeah, it is. I want to talk, like, you know, that idea that I told you about, like interviewing friends. That's kind of the reason that would never exist, is because I'd have to ask people like, hey, we haven't spoken in a while. Do you want to talk to me for 45 minutes about random shit and then let me post it to the internet for maybe zero, maybe millions.
See, I love that
you
the
know?
idea of you doing an interview show, because I think you'd bring like the Kobe flair to it and it'd be like funny and hilarious. But I think you're setting your sights way too low on the guests and they aren't going to pull any views. Because like, oh, here's fucking Johnson from high school. Go get him, internet. And Johnson's like, I am failing my business degree. And he's got no pull. There's no Johnson. See, we didn't go to school.
The idea of it is like the mundaneness is sort of the interesting part, because like every time you see an interview with a celebrity or something like that, like it's this weird thing where you're already aware of them and their life is as interesting as it can be, to the point where it's become uninteresting. Like, I feel as though a modern day celebrity is the most boring life to live, because like everything that you do is documented, compared to somebody who's like doing a degree in like microbiology, who is only ever on Joe Rogan's podcast during a global pandemic.
I mean, but there's like a level of that where it's people only care about what you have to say when they care about like what you have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
So like you're not like for something.
I'm not trying to make the next big podcast here, Dan. I just want to talk to friends.
Well, see, I want to see. Here's where our paths diverge. I want to utilize my friends to generate income for me. Okay, so I'm gonna need you to pull numbers.
We'll see that. We'll see that. Anyway, business meeting over. Yeah, no, that's an interesting topic. I think I like the thought of connecting to people, especially like once your paths are separated. And it's just, to me, because I may not act it a lot of the time because I am a bit of a selfish person. And by a bit of, I mean a lot of. But, I can't necessarily imagine a world without the people that I spend the most time with, like, already. Like, it seems it's a foreign concept whenever, my brother would tell me, oh, your high school, like, I'm not friends with any of my high school friends unless we continued to play soccer or, just watching people.
I hate when my parents like say that shit, like, oh, we're not friends with any of my high school friends anymore. Like,
yeah.
Because if people in your life hit you with that, like, oh, you're not going to be friends with your high school friends forever. Because I feel like we have a fantastic group and that's going to persevere. Like, Caden moved away in 2015. And we're still like close as ever with him 6 years later. And
I was barely friends with Caden,
and now you're better friends.
Yeah, and now we're the fucking sick cunts.
Because I think we're like we're not like the first, but we're one of the first like year groups, like graduating class like year groups that has had the internet. Like, we had the internet pretty much all the way through high school, and we're able to maintain these relations. Like, the group chat never ended. Instead, we made it a fucking podcast. Like.
Yeah,
I can't envisage a world where we're not friends. At least some subset of soul are not friends, like, effectively forever.
Yeah,
unless something fucking unless Joseph goes too far with his sexual escapades. Let's say.
I was gonna say with his fascism ideas.
No.
I agree. I think it's interesting watching the generation that we are a part of, and just a little bit.
We're truly unlike any of the ones prior, like,
but it's going to be this weird phenomenon, because I think that the 8 years starting in like the early 90s, so like 1993 to 2000, right? I think that is going to be its own. I mean, it is sort of forming its own generation.
It's kind of like, millennials are here and Gen Z's here and like this but I think it's probably closer to like 97 to like 2001 is where I'd grab it. And it's kind of like, we're the in-between people where we get all of the millennial shit, but we also like get all the Zoomer humor because we grew up with the internet. Like, we grew up with your shitty cartoons and the internet.
And I think it's also like the drastic shortening of like a generational gap, because there are kids now who, like my nieces, who the oldest was born in 2011, and then the two youngest, the twins, were born in 2013. Like, they were autonomous using the internet by the time, like, they were iPad kids.
I mean, like, culture moves so quick now, and they're plugged in so early.
Yeah, and then I think what we'll see is our generation, like that 8 years that I was talking about, are seeing those kids and how those kids are using internet and how it's fucking them, and then it's going to create um this ironic's not the word, like this loop of now we're the ones not wanting to show, like, give kids access to the
It
internet,
is kind of
like
weird
really
how
early.
it's like we've gone from like, oh fuck, like I wasn't allowed a phone, and like I wasn't allowed a smartphone until I turned 13. We went from that,
Yeah.
parents like fucking limit, like I got like an hour of computer time a day. I wasn't allowed to play video games except on like Fridays and Saturdays. Then we've in like 5 years later, we get fucking 2-year-olds with an iPad watching AI generated Chinese fucking cocoa melon shit, microwaving their brains. To like in another like 7 or 8 years, it's going to be like our generation as parents being like, fuck no, you don't get an iPad until you're 13.
So it's
because like we grew up with it.
I think that's the weird thing, that classing people as generations is going to become more and more impossible because those generational divides are going to be shrinking dramatically. Like,
Well,
the difference between somebody born, like people born 1999, 2000 and people born in 2005, like that 5 year difference is so drastic in the types of people that it has produced.
So
I'd say
interesting you said those years, because I was born in 1999. My sister's born in 2005, so you've hit both of those years. And yes, there's like quite a generational difference there. Even in terms of like when my sister first like got social media, she was like way younger than when I was when I first got social media and stuff. And so like, yeah, there's a divide there and there's differences in way in thinking, but then it's also like in terms of the generation blending, like we're into we send each other TikToks and shit all the time. Like we're into the same Zoomer humor. Like I can still relate to the Zoomer humor. I know I can identify it's fucking Zoomer humor and it's ridiculous and it's stupid, but like it's kind of funny sometimes.
I don't know, saying monkey is very funny. Monkey.
No, we had monkeys first. Harambe died for our sins, okay? Monkey always respected. Okay? Caesar is home.
Caesar is home.
Oh, where'd you go? It's two of me. It's two of me. It's two of me.
Sorry.
Wow, that was scary.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Caesar is
home. So Kobe, I had quite an experience. I had quite an experience this week. Quite a modern experience, okay? When you think 2020s, the decade thus far, what do you think?
I think you went to a vaccination
you were supposed
clinic.
to say COVID and I was going to be right.
No. Here's what I think you did. You went to a vaccination clinic with a picket sign that says, "I would rather die than be controlled by Bill Gates."
Okay, you must have mistaken me for someone else because I was actually outside of the vaccination clinic. I was standing with those guys, but my sign said, "What the fuck? There was no chip in my vaccine. Bill Gates put a chip in me." And then I had Cody Co's chip song. Like, everybody get the chip.
Yeah.
No, so yeah, on Monday, I got my first shot of AstraZeneca, which is fucking pog, dude. I'm half vaxxed.
That's sick.
Half vaxxed, ready for sack. Stealing bits, baby. No, it was crazy. Like, it was. Look, I haven't been to the doctor in like 10 years. Okay, I'm perfect.
Yes.
I'm a marvel of modern medicine.
Well,
the superhuman.
I mean, you got off lucky then. I went to the doctor for the first time in 4 years, and they said, "Hey, you got brain issues, kid, the physical kind." And I went, "Oh no! See this profession that you have never heard of." An endocrinologist, because you've got a tumor, boy. And I went,
I'm pretty sure that's what gives Superman his powers.
No, that's Superman.
Yeah, it's just this. I fucked it up. I fucked it. Endocrines. I meant to make a Scientology joke, and then I was like, Superman.
Yeah, the sun gives him.
I know the
power.
sun gives him. It's the
hotter the bigger the sun, the more power he gets.
To do with the radiation.
So the bigger the sun, bigger sun gives bigger radiation.
It's the yellow. It's the yellowness of it. It depends on which interpretation you read.
Fair enough.
But so anyway, I went to. They did. It wasn't like, I'm sure if I went to a doctor for like a checkup, they'd call in all of their colleagues and like mutter into their clipboards. I'm like, oh yes, because they're like, how is he alive still? No, it was just so I pull up. And I'm just like, I haven't, because I booked online. There was a whole there's been a saga going on in the group chat where they've been making fun of me subtly for not liking talking on the phone because I didn't want to have to call up to make an appointment.
Yes.
So I went online. I made an appointment at a local medical center. That's not like my main. If I still had a main, it wasn't the doctor I went to last 10 years ago. So I booked it in, like, register as a new patient in that system. Like, blah blah. Give me my Astra phase 1, Astra first shot. Then you have to, like, fill out basically the government eligibility checker, and they're like, then they sternly look at you and point and say, "We're gonna ask you again when you get there. So if you're fucking lying to get this vax." Gladys herself will come and fucking spank you.
So what could you be lying about as a 21-year-old?
Well, I could have said I was
person?
older, so I could get Pfizer, like jump the queue for Pfizer.
Okay, so I'm gonna get you here. Hold on. All right, so I was looking for a vaccination clinic around me, right? Because I'm unsure whether to get the Pfizer or get the AstraZeneca.
So
you're
for the listeners at home, Kobe is at the very bottom of the legal threshold. Like, he's like the lowest amount of Aboriginal descent you can be to still qualify for all of the government benefits of being Aboriginal descent.
And I don't abuse that because I feel as though it is not.
But it's not
a part
abuse,
of me.
though.
It would be because it's not something that I would particularly partake in, right?
But anyway, that makes him eligible for, like, Centrelink payments based on I think it's part of, like, the reparations and stuff that he doesn't take. He got an extra ATAR point or 2 at school, I think.
Yeah,
but also you're eligible for Pfizer. That you get priority.
But see, again, I don't want to abuse a legal technicality that necessarily, like, I'm all right. I'm all right. Anyway, so I Google vaccine clinic Liverpool because that's the council region that I live in. And the first one comes up as, like, southwestern Sydney, PHN, and all right. So this is the quote here. Ready? COVID-19 vaccines are free, blah blah blah, in Australia, even if you're not Australian citizen, blah 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 blah.
That's pretty cool, by the way, that it's completely free even for non-citizens. Like, that's amazing.
I mean, it does come out of tax, but that's what we pay tax for.
Yeah, exactly.
So that people can get it.
Eat shit and die, the United States.
So, ready? I quote, "The Australian government wants everybody in Australia to have access to a safe, free COVID-19 vaccine if they choose to be vaccinated." Now, this is on the, like, southwestern Sydney website. The Pfizer vaccine is prioritized for people under 60 years of age. The AstraZeneca vaccine is prioritized for people age 60 and over. So, see what you said by...
So the window for Pfizer at the moment is the 40 to 59 range are the people who are currently eligible.
This website is fairly misleading because it says Pfizer vaccine prioritized for people under 60, but the AstraZeneca is prioritized for people age 60 and over.
It's not wrong.
So it's not wrong, but it's telling a mistruth because the AstraZeneca...
if you wait until like October, if you wait until October, you'll be able to get the Pfizer one. Like, you are priority. Yeah. The reason is because, like, the whole controversy around the AstraZeneca has been, like, there was a few cases of blood clots, and apparently it's more likely to take effect in young people. That being said, I'll tell this partly in my story. Never mind. Forget I didn't decide. So yeah, the AstraZeneca, like, the blood clots, there's a higher risk in young people. So they're like, well, if you're over this age, you're gonna die anyway, fucking idiot. Get AstraZeneca, and if you're younger, get Pfizer if you can. But the problem is, we have no Pfizer. Like, we have barely any Pfizer because of ScoMo
a tidbit for that.
Did a bit of a fuckaroony. And
because the people that head AstraZeneca, or some people liberal members of, well, like, they were. Hold on, let me find out. Hold on, there was
ScoMo is, like, somehow tied to the, like, CEO of AstraZeneca or something, and he turned down a shipment of 40 million Pfizer doses or something in place of AstraZeneca.
Back in like March.
Yeah, he did that before we knew, like, the unfortunate side effects of AstraZeneca. So people have, like, grabbed that information now and been like, ScoMo, you fuckhead. But that was before we knew AstraZeneca potential bad. Anyway, so, like, yeah, so the how the government's like scheme is like a negative sounding word, but like the current like vaccine plan is what the word I'm actually looking for is. If you're over 60, you get AstraZeneca. You've been eligible for ages, get it. If you're 40 to 59, we don't have a lot of Pfizer, but you are in the bracket that we're giving it to, so you can register and go get your Pfizer vaccine now. And if you're under 40, it's like 16 to 39, I think is the next range.
Yeah.
If you could, I think you can still book your Pfizer in and you can get it. But I think like later down the track, or if you're okay with getting AstraZeneca, as long as like we're gonna tell you the risks and then you can make your own informed decision based on your past like medical history, and how important you think getting vaxxed up is. Double vaxxed up on a Thursday afternoon, hella ass. So I took all that information in, and then in an effort to defy the Murdoch media, I had signed up for the AstraZeneca vaccine, and I was able to get an appointment within like 3 weeks, which was real cool at like a local medical center. So I go in on Monday for my thing, and I was expecting a bit more hullabaloo, in terms of like the preamble to the vax. Because basically, I pulled up, I go to the lady at the reception, and she's like, "Fill out this," and it was like it was like the paper version of the eligibility checker.
Yeah.
I was like, "Cool," filled that out, handed it back to her, and she's like, "All right, lit. Sit back down. The doctor will get you." And I was like, "Oh, cool." This doctor pulls up. He's like, "Yep, come with me, little boy." And I'm like, "That's weird. I have a beard. Why would you say it like that?" False. He didn't call me a little boy. No, he's like, "Yeah, come in," and he's like, "All right, I presume you know the risks." And I was like, "Yep." And he's like, "You still cool?" I was like, "Yep." And then he talked a little bit. He's like, because on Monday, I think they moved before they were recommending 15 weeks between AstraZeneca doses, and now they've moved it to 6
then
to
they
8.
moved it to 6.
And he pretty much, he was like, "You know the risks, you're still here, so obviously like you're willing to still get the vaccine. I think that's a good decision." And then he asked like, "Do you have your second appointment booked in?" I said yes. And he's like, "Cool. Don't move it sooner on my recommendation. Like, don't move it any closer than 8 weeks because the longer you have between the two shots, the more effective it is." And he's like, "Okay, we'll go to the nurse and you'll get the shot." And I was like, surprisingly short preamble. I sit down. The nurse is like, "Left or right arm?" I was like, which do you recommend?" And she's like, "Well, are you left or right-handed?" And I was like, "I'm right-handed." And she goes, "I'm going for the left arm." Yep. Legit. She's like, "All right, you're good to go."
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, that was no ceremony for the fucking, like, the vax to end.
What do you think they were going to do? Bring you out a fucking trophy?
It felt weird how little preamble there was to, like...
Dan, it's a doctor, not the Olympics.
But Kobe, it was the past 18 months have been, like, gripped with an iron fist by this virus.
You're a doctor.
But they didn't even be like, "Are you sure? You know there's clots. You know there's clots." They didn't even do any of that. They were just like, "Yeah, you know what's up."
Yeah.
And anyway, so I got the vaccine, and they're like, just like make sure you chill in the lobby for 15 minutes, so in case you die.
Do blood clots take that?
No.
Actually,
it's for like that's for like if you have an allergic reaction to the vaccine. Okay, they're like chill in the lobby for 15 minutes. We aren't gonna check, and only talk to us again if you can. We give you permission to address the receptionist if you're dying. Otherwise, leave it the fuck alone. So I sat there for like 15 minutes because I feel like I could have just gotten up and left, but I was like, you know what? This is an fish out of water situation for me being outside of my house at somewhere other than work. So I followed the rules. I sat there for 15 minutes, and then I got up and left, and I was and then I got in my car and I was like, "Hi, I'm half vaxxed." That's pretty pog. And then so I've heard obviously like one of the big things you hear is, "Oh man, that vaccine, that shot will put you on your ass for a bit. You'll feel a bit ill." And I was like, "Not me. I'm stronger than disease."
Yeah, toxic masculinity.
I'm better than this. So I went home, and I was like, I was pretty chilling on the Monday. I had like a Microsoft Teams call with my thesis group, and then we streamed on Monday night. Which I had a fantastic stream actually with our good friend Maddie from the stream team. I'm gonna put his Twitch link, if I remember, in the description of this episode. Make sure you go give him a follow. He is a Warzone god, and we probably are gonna. I've been talking to him. We're gonna stream together again in the future. Hopefully more organized. So twitch.tv/Maddie. It's MATTAYZZ. Shit. Make sure you go follow on Twitch. Anyway, we had a great stream on Monday, and towards the end of the stream on Monday, I was like, "Well, I'm getting a bit of a ripper of a headache." But I just chalked it up to looking at the computer for too long. So I lie down in bed, and I'm like, "Oh, headache." Popped a panny. That's lingo for a Panadol. Glop glop glop. And that subdued the headache enough for me to browse TikTok for a few hours and then fall asleep. Okay, so I have work on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Okay, and I wake up at like 8:15, and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
Daniel, no feel no good. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
So I'm like, well, I'm running late for work, and I feel kind of shitty calling in sick like this early because I knew that same day the girl who normally works like all day during the day had been a casual COVID contact, so she wasn't able to come in. So my boss was already scrambling, and I was like, fuck, I'll have a shower, and I'm sure I'll feel better after the shower. So I have a quick shower because I'm fucking running late. And I'm like, oh, don't feel better after the shower. I had a throbbing headache. I felt super lightheaded and dizzy, and I just felt nauseous. And my arm
and
was
your dick was like
sore.
5 inches longer.
Rock hard. It was extended. And I was like, well, I don't feel great, but fuck, I guess it's too late to cancel now. Soldier on. I go to work, and I'm like, oh, did not feel fantastic. And it got to the point where eventually thankfully my boss had overcompensated in getting staff in to make up for it, so we're overstaffed. And he was going to send one person home at 1 o'clock anyway, and I was like, this guy, pick me.
Yeah,
pick
please.
me.
Please.
But yeah, that shot was no fucking joke, dude. I felt, I know some people, like Braden, our friend Braden has like a 17 or 18 inch penis. He's extremely cool, no side effects. But me, 3 inches over here.
Send it to him.
Do it.
Calling Braden cool.
No, his ego's already at an all-time high. There's nothing we can do to increase it. But yeah, no, so he had no side effects. And meanwhile, I'm knocked on my ass. My dad had the shot on like Friday, and Saturday was a write-off for him. So like, I wonder if there's some sort of link genetically, like we have bad genes. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm half vaxxed now. I'm still feeling it a little bit, but not too bad. My arm still extremely sore. But yeah, now I'm half vaxxed, and honestly, it feels kind of cool being in the upper echelon of society. Like,
yeah, does it?
You should be like thrilled that me, a vaxxed, half vaxxed, is spending time with the unclean, unvaxxed like you.
Okay.
Like there's like such an air of superiority around me now that I'm half vaxxed.
Dan, I'm gonna have to give you a point for that one.
Shit. God damn it.
I can bring you down. I can bring you down, you know?
It's true, I am half vaxxed, but I now have 2 points.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm just going to wait for the Pfizer. I was the person
if I was you, fucking book it in now.
Yeah, I see. Yes. But that means I have to call, because usually when you're booking
hot dog.
Yeah. A hot dog. Yeah, I might do that. Yeah.
Just, book one online.
Yeah, anyway, to piggyback off of that, right? To piggyback off of that, why are there still anti-vaxxers? Why are there still people that want to choose freedom over actual freedom? You know, so there's what I mean?
A lady at my work is like extreme anti-vax. And so it's like a joke among the rest of the staff, like, because she's like a permanent staff member. She's there every day. And it's like a joke, like, oh, what the fuck did she say to you today? And every day she's got like some story cooked up, like, oh, in the US, you know, they're like fucking trapping people for clinical trials and shit. And like, oh, like tens of people are dying every day from the masks from like low oxygen. And it's just like crazy shit. And she's been like, she went to like her doctor, who sounds like a fuckhead from the shit that she says he says. And managed to get like an exception for wearing the mask. Like she got like a lawful exception for wearing a mask. But I don't know if it has like an expiry or something, like the exception, because today was the first time since the pandemic started. I'm not sure if like either that happened or a staff members, like a couple of customers have said things to other staff members and it got passed up to my boss and back down to her that she has to wear a mask. Because fuck, she was wearing a mask today and she was doing the whole song and dance of like pulling it off her face and panting, like wearing it under her nose. It was so funny.
But so I did junk mail for the first time in a while last night, and I wore a mask during it because
excellent call. I hate seeing that shit. People like going on walks and runs and shit, not wearing a mask, and they go this close by someone. It's like, no, you just got AIDS.
So AIDS isn't a very nice thing, you know. It's not a thing to joke about. Anyway, I was wearing a mask while I was walking because you know, it's a again, like it's not necessarily an essential service, but we're being told to work, and I'm trying to
Well, I
do
think it's because it's not indoors; it's outdoors. There's some line skirting.
yeah, right. But while I was doing it, I was walking. It was non-stop walking with a, a moderately heavy bag around my shoulder, right? And it wasn't like I was walking not at a slow pace, right? I didn't feel any breathing issues at all. Now, granted, some people may have like a crooked nose that you know
Dude,
can affect their breathing, but at the
I saw
same
a
time,
dude today with a fucking cartoonly large nose, and he was wearing his mask under it, and I was like, I don't want to ask him to pull his mask up because like he had a fucking schnoz, my guy. Like it would have
was
there
it
would
like
have been like a
Gilgamesh?
there
Was
would have been like a
Gilgamesh
4 centimeter air gap between his like cheek and his mask if he pulled it up over his nose. I was like, I honestly don't know what the best course of action for you is here. Like he needs like one of those, those scuba masks they give influencers that's like a whole face air shield. Like that's what he. Anyway, I'm done now kicking this dude while in his fucking gigantic nose while he's down.
This is terrible out of context. This is, oh, Dan. Anyway, yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why people are still on that kick of not wanting to get the vaccine, but also wanting to come out of, the past 18 months.
You'll notice the Venn diagram is a circle.
Yes.
This is a Venn diagram heavy episode. The Venn diagram is a circle of people who don't want the vaccine, who don't wear masks or like wear their masks incorrectly and like are just kind of resistant to the whole process, who don't follow the COVID check-in rules and like and not following the lockdown rules of only leaving the house for essential things and like breaching the perimeter stuff, and then like the people who are spreading COVID in the community. That Venn diagram is a fucking circle. It's those people, and they're ruining it for the fucking people who are taking it all seriously and are following all of the rules. And it's very frustrating.
And it's that we talked about it ages ago. I think this was like last year, right? And it was about like the common good and doing things for the common good, and that people that always preach about wanting to be free and wanting everybody to do what they want can't think like socially for like 2 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And it's that same thing. The reason why we're in this lockdown now is because somebody who was in range to get vaccinated didn't get vaccinated, and because and it's this domino effect. And the reason why we're back in a lockdown 18 months later, when fucking the US of all places is basically reopened at this point. Like people are going.
Oh, for better or for worse in some states.
Yes, of course, right. But
I saw a graph on Twitter that was like vaccination rates versus political leaning, and it was like there was a fucking line in the middle of like blue states almost fully vaccinated, red states barely vaccinated, and I was like, this
wasn't
is,
the number like
they've politicized
of
something
total population percentage vaccinated, like didn't it like flatline around 50-60% there?
Yeah,
which is fucking terrifying to think about because there are over 300 million people there. Disregard the kids, which are kids that don't necessarily have autonomy because of parents and government rules and shit like that. Right. But even still, that's still like upwards of 250 million people to 300 million people. And half of that, just a little under half of that, are saying, no, I don't want to get vaccinated because I have my liberties. And what am I going to do with those liberties? Fuck literally everything. And it's
you hear it's like a quote from like a book or a movie or some shit, like the greatest flaw with democracy is the government of the people. Unfortunately, the people are fucking stupid. Yeah. Like you've given idiots freedoms, and like yes, it becomes when you start saying like, well, we should force the vaccines on these people. That's like a moral question of like, well, these people do have their own freedoms. You can't like forcibly inject shit in their bodies. There's a moral like. There's a moral question to be had there. But there's also a moral question of how fucking selfish are you that you are like outright denying science and facts purely just so that you can exercise your freedom. Like I can't imagine that anyone like peddling the anti-vax shit actually cares all that much about the vaccines. They just want to be able to exercise they just want to push back against like the government. I feel like it's way more that than them actually caring.
What I think that has happened with modern politics, excuse the political talk for a minute, right? Is that you've got these people that are backed behind companies that effectively pay them to lie. I think climate change is a fantastic example. And again, this is something else that I was thinking about today. Like the carbon tax was pushed back so much on, and it did have its problems, but it was like such a good idea.
I mean, look, me and Elon are 100% on the same page. 11-year-old Dan said carbon tax good idea. I read an article and I read the facts and I understood it. And I was like, this, I'm maybe 11. This sounds like a good idea. Flash forwards 10 years. Joseph Rogan hosts Elonus Muskus. I think I'm just going to extrapolate that Elonus is probably his full name.
Yeah.
Hosts Elon Musk. And Elon says a carbon tax would solve a lot of our problems. And I'm like, I've known for 10 years.
Yeah, but even 10 years ago, that it was like such an ahead of its time thing. And people in government, right, were effectively paid to lie, just outright lied to line their pockets that little bit more. And what's inadvertently happened is the people that follow politics like it's a fucking sports game have ended up believing that lie. Because people in government aren't stupid. Like some are, of course, but there are people
there's a level like there's like a bottom threshold of stupidity that you can have to be in government that's like fairly high, because you have to have like degrees and shit. So no one in the government is like an idiot. None of them are stupid. Some of them are fucking idiots, but they're not stupid.
Yeah. Or like even take the government out of it. Somebody like Ben Shapiro, who was a
he's like extremely
conservative
well educated
talking head.
Yeah.
I do not for a second think that
he is
dumb.
He's
stupid.
Just a fucking idiot.
Yeah, right. But he's peddling these lies because it benefits him in every single way, because it is what pays his bills. And the people that he's like serving it to are actually people that are uneducated. You know, that's the big problem. I guess
you touched on something that's kind of like put the last puzzle piece in my mind for how like what's going on. It's like any competitive video game. Here we go. We're bringing it back to gamer talk.
Right,
like
let's go. Yeah.
You take a game like League of Legends, and the game is League of Legends, but the meta game is for the uninformed people in chat who aren't familiar with these phrasings. You talk about like the meta in games like this, and what that refers to, the Latin word meta, it means of itself. So when you talk about a video game, the meta game is the game of the game. And in a game like League of Legends, it's the game on top of the game where people have figured out what the best ways to play the game are to win. Like what characters are the strongest at the moment. Like in a game like Destiny, like what guns are the best and stuff. And it's the game of the game that like instructs how you play the game. It's gotten to the point where like any game, politics has its meta. Like,
yes,
they know that certain actions will like will shift the tides stronger. Not like, and it's less about like moral correctness or what's actually correct, and it's more like the meta of it. It's like, how are you going to move the needle the most?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like willfully lying, and there's nothing you can necessarily do to stop it. Because if, for example, one side of government says we want to raise taxes we want to increase tax brackets and make more tax brackets to future-proof our system, and it may end up negatively affecting most people in the short term, but in the long term, it's going to have a positive effect on the community as a whole. The other side doesn't necessarily have to outright lie. They can tell the half truth of your taxes are going to go up underneath this government, right? Because they're making big tax plans and they're going to use your money for X, Y, and Z, right? And it's so hard to rebut that, because it's like, well, what are we going to do? Like, criticize the system that we are playing now? Like, one side ultimately, well, the defense, right, is weaker than the attack, because you can't necessarily disprove
something. We're in attack
something
meta
like
for the government right now.
Yeah, you can't necessarily disprove people having trouble to breathe under a mask. You can't disprove that because you were not that person. But at the same time,
it's literally
the
he said, she
amount of
said.
people that are,
I have trouble breathing under the mask. What are you going to say? No, you don't. Like, and then they say, yes, I do. And it's like, well, you're a fucking idiot. Get out of my IGA.
Yeah, like then just don't come here to do something. So I'm just really annoyed because we were meant to have a gig this
Yeah.
Saturday,
Oh,
and
it was
now it's
supposed to be
called
this
off.
Saturday.
And pardon?
It was supposed to be this Saturday. You're fucking
It
right.
was.
That's so
It
upsetting.
was. Like every single time
You
something
and
big.
Tater need to stop organizing gigs because you
I
literally
fucking
put
swear
the
to
state
God,
back
man.
into lockdown every single fucking time. Every single time.
Yeah,
You managed
every
to
single
sneak the
time.
one in March in just before everything closed down again.
We were also able to sneak one in as restrictions were easing, but not easing enough for there to be dancing, only standing.
Yeah.
And then the first dancing gig that we were going to have, like I think it was 2 months ago, some guy
Gone.
needed to get a barbecue. So
Dude, what
that
about the
weekend was
fucker
done.
that spent 11 hours in an IKEA? Bro, imagine getting COVID and being like, but I kind of need a new desk though. I can't fathom. It has to just be that they didn't like check out on the service issue that was well,
Yeah,
that,
no,
right?
they didn't.
There's
They
no
didn't.
way they were physically.
You know.
What? Okay, I understand IKEA is like the fucking Charlie and the
It's a-
chocolate factory of the
But 11
furniture
hours.
world. 11 hours
11 hours.
seems excessive.
I have. If I was somewhere if I was in one place for 11 hours straight, I think I'd probably,
I could count on my hand, like on my fingers, the number of places in the world I want to spend 11 hours straight at.
Yeah.
Anyway, so get vaxxed is the moral of the
Get
story.
vaccinated.
I'm half
And if-
vaxxed. Kobe's not, and he's lesser because of it. But I have 2
Oh,
points on the
damn.
board, so that brings me down as well.
Yes, and you know what? You were boasting there again, so I'm going to have to give you a third one. Yeah, there you go. Guys, see, it's a simple game we play here. You put down the lower class, and you ultimately win.
That's the podcast meta. Speaking of the podcast meta, how's the transition? Kobe, I've discovered an anomaly in the numbers. Okay, I was doing the figures, balancing the
Oh,
books, the checks and the
Alright.
balances. You know,
All right, I'm going to uproot Dan's transition here. So Dan has this fascination, like most Zoomers do, with numbers next to their name, and he
number
he
big
saw
means I mean more.
after we
number
talked,
big means I mean more as a person.
yes. We spoke about a specific controversial topic, and I'm going to pivot this because the glorious leader of this stream team, Grace, tweeted about it, and I'm not going to have you talk about it
so
again.
Grace's tweet was not saying that those topics, like the
No, hold
demonizing
on,
these
hold
female
on.
streamers was bad.
You haven't let me finish. Right. So Dan was looking at the numbers for our recent episodes and saw that the one that we were in a hot tub talking about girls in
No,
hot
it wasn't the one
tubs.
we were in a hot tub. It was the one
Wasn't
where
it?
we talked about the Amaranth Indie Fox band. I said the names, we can put them in the title. 200 views. 200
Fuck, he won.
views. Yeah, so the episode 2 episodes ago where it was just me and Kobe again, and we talked about the we had like a very tasteful conversation. It wasn't supposed to be like using that to farm views. Like, I feel like we had a very good conversation about the nature of Twitch and like the hot tub meta and the bans that had happened. And we talked about like, well, like, is there going to have to be a further paradigm shift? It was a really good conversation. Go back and listen to that episode. But me and my fucking 3000 IQ brain was like, well, the only way we're going to get people to click on this, you put photos of me and Kobe on there, no one wants to click on it. You put a photo of fucking Amaranth and Indie Fox on the thumbnail, everyone's going to click on that shit. So I got into Photoshop, okay? I got a photo of Amaranth and Indie Fox, smacked them on there, and then I cranked that saturation bar all the way to the top, and I put like the fucking Mortal Kombat versus and some fire and shit on there. Shit was crazy, okay? It was a poppin' thumbnail. And it did like 6 times the views compared to our next highest viewed YouTube video. It was very insane. So I'm like, well, now we have to bring them up every episode so I can justify putting them in the title and thumbnail so that we get hella views. And yes, the average view retention was like 90 seconds, but I don't care because they clicked on the video and the number went higher, and that means I mean more as a person, okay? That's what the internet's told me. Bigger number equals self-worth.
Secondarily to that, I commented before that Fall from Grace, the person who is the leader of our stream team, tweeted something the other day, which like I usually
He was
don't
talking
scroll
about like
Twitter.
the slot meta tweet, right?
Yeah, it was about slot meta, and it was something that I was like, I rarely scroll on Twitter. I usually just skip to the top and then read the top 3 tweets because I don't have a lot of time. But I was scrolling and I saw the tweet, and it got me thinking. And I want to use the remaining time we have left to talk about, holy shit, It was it was misogyny all along,
I don't think
wasn't
it
it?
was.
Don't you?
It's definitely a factor. I think that's why some people were in it. But I do think, I mean, we had our conversation, which
Yes.
I feel like was very insightful and well thought out, and not just like women are succeeding, and I hate that. That's not what our conversation was.
I also just want to clarify.
It was very much because I think at least
Ooh.
a good percentage of the conversation was about how is this in relation to Twitch's terms of service,
Yes.
and not necessarily women are the evil here, and
Yeah.
and I hate that they're succeeding. We talked about, hey, this thing's happening, it's skirting these rules. Is that okay on this platform that we love?
See, that's the conversation that we had, and
There were some people saying like women shouldn't be doing that.
but also in comparison, I think that so if you don't know what the slots meta is, it is people gambling. It's people using like online slot machines as, and that being a foil for the content. You know, instead of playing a game, they're on slot machines, and they're making, you know, they've got so many views on people like just openly gambling. And I was made aware, like I was aware of it at the same time. I think ironically there was a XQC clip on live stream fail of him talking about Amaranth or someone, the hot tub meta, while he was doing slots. But it never really occurred to me how bad of, like, how much worse, or to the degree of like terrible that kind of content is for this site at the same time, because most everyone was talking about girls in bikinis, which, like, let's be honest, is fairly harmless, you know, in the grand scheme of things. But there are people actually gambling to a young audience. Like, it would be a lie to say that the audience isn't young, right? And mostly like peddling, like, look at this much money that I can make from slots. And even if they say don't gamble, kids are still going to look at that, see someone make fucking $2.5 million and go, I could do that, right? And I think there's a conversation to be had necessarily about how Twitch as a whole viewed women doing something fairly risque and taboo on this site, that were using the same excuses that I think using something like slot machines and gambling.
I mean, I
on
do
a
think
site
you're
for the
100%
same
right.
audience.
Like the fact that it was women dressing scantily clad, it attracted a lot of eyes, and thus it attracted a lot of conversation. And yes, this slots thing is happening, and it definitely is more male streamers. You can't argue that. And it's not getting the same kind of, it's not garnering the same kind of attention. And I do think there's like a level of sexism that is involved there. I'm not even going to deny that. But I do think that the situations are fairly different, because they're not blatantly in breach of TOS. I think that this argument is the same argument as like the CSGO skin controversy that happened a while ago, because there is no way on God's green earth you can tell me that none of these people are either like co-owners in these sites or are doing rigged betting things. I think that's where that controversy is, and I do think we're going to see the hammer fall on that in the next like couple months. Because, I mean, like the CSGO skin thing from like 2014, 15, 16, whenever the fuck that all happened.
We're old.
We are. Look, we're gamers, okay? We've been around the block or two.
Yeah.
No, so like that, I do think
cheated.
I do think the other shoe's going to drop on that, and we are going to see Twitch do something. Like, if they don't do something, that's going to be a fucking terrible look for them. And then yes, we have to have the conversation about whether it's sexism and stuff. But I don't think it's had the high profile. There hasn't been the high profile incident yet that there was with the hot tub streams. And I do think there is a level of misogyny there. Like, yeah, I agree with you.
Still disagree. I feel as though something like this, you know, it's that same thing. It's like, yes, it's technically allowed in the TOS, but it deserve to be on the site, you know?
Yeah, that is a whole nother question.
Right. And that was my main argument with hot tub streamers. And that was because I was like, you know, every other clip on live stream fails would be somebody in a hot tub, or like the front page would be filled with people with hot tubs because, Twitch was advertising that, right? And people were fucking talking about it. But those same people that were talking about it were the ones also playing these slot machines. There's an irony there. There's a level of irony.
Actually, the more you're saying it, like it's hard because I want to see the good in the conversation. Because a lot of the conversation around the hot tub streams that I participated in was explicitly not coming at it from a stance of misogyny. But like, I guess you're right.
Do you think like if Amaranth and Indie Fox and
if Amaranth was in a hot tub and pulled up a slot machine, people would fucking lose their minds?
No, but if you imagine like them talking out about it, people would instantly point at them and say, yeah, but you were in a hot tub in front of 14 and 15-year-olds using your body, like blah, 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 going on this stuff compared to someone like, someone at the same caliber or a lesser caliber, relatively speaking, like XQC or like some cunt from FaZe or 100 Thieves, right, playing slots while the hot tub meta was going on. When they were in their chat and the streamer was going, look, this is bad because this shouldn't be on there while they're playing slots. Like it's that terrible sort of precedent that we've set that, like because a girl is doing something taboo, it's wrong. But when a guy is doing something taboo, it's taboo. It's like, oh, it's pushing the boundary. When, in my opinion, both are equally as wrong. But when you look at it like from a top-down perspective, and you go, wait, this is effectively the same controversy, but in a different form, and people aren't necessarily talking about it the exact same way. It raises a few red flags, and I think again, it was Grace's tweet that sort of sparked that thing for me. So good on Supreme Leader, the only person in the stream team that I canonically cannot hate. I wouldn't do that.
No, my camera's the other way.
But still, I feel like
I was saluting like the Supreme Leader.
So, yes, but I feel as though she wouldn't appreciate. I don't know. I don't know.
I didn't leave my hand. Stop making it something it's not. You made it something that it wasn't.
I mean, you were making something it was. You were making something that it wasn't. I feel as though you were doing that, Dan. You've really brought the energy to a weird place. Stop doing it. Stop doing it. Dan, you salute like this,
and then you
go forward. You go forward and across.
Do you go forwards and across? That feels wrong.
I mean, technically, you're supposed to salute like this, like you go with your right hand, and then when you take it down, you're like you just take it down. I was in the Army Cadets. I would know, but
were you actually?
Yeah, I was.
What the fuck?
I was, well, not like when I was 12 or 13. I was in like the cadets.
Was that something your parents forced upon you?
No, my one of my mum's partner at the time, his son was doing it, and he was like, you should do it, and I said, okay. So I did it for like 6
I can't
months.
imagine a more fish out of water thing for you.
Well, I was 12, so it wasn't the best scenario, especially as the weak boy that I was. Actually, I do have a funny story. So, we've hard pivoted, I guess.
We really have.
So the cadets were really fun. There was a lot of information I learned about the army and stuff like that. But there was one camp that we did, and it was like a weekend. It was like a Friday, Saturday camp, or like a Saturday, Sunday camp. Sorry. So you got there the Saturday morning, you camped over Saturday night, and then you left midday on Sunday, right? Now, this was on barracks grounds at the Holsworthy Barracks, is where I did it. And it was the worst thing ever, right? So there was... this is hilarious because everything that I did was fairly wrong. So the first thing we were doing was using a compass and like following a path. And the rule of the compass was keep red in the shed. So the red arrow had to be on the red thing and keep heading like a specific direction. When it came to me, like everybody was kind of fucking up. When it came to me, we went so far off course, like it was fairly bad. And again, I was 12. I don't feel like using my age as an excuse is fairly like, but in a situation like this, I think it's valid, right? Now, Hamish and Andy, they were doing a gap year that year, I think, or something similar to it.
The
And in
years line up. 2012 sounds like peak Hamish
Yeah.
and Andy gap year.
So this is a different activity, which is like we were in like these small groups and we had to build furniture out of sticks and shit.
They were on their Europe gap year, I think.
Okay. And they were talking to an army man in one of the episodes, and Hamish, I believe it was. This sticks out in my memory so bad. It was so cringe. He like goes to one of the army men there, like, because he can't technically order him, but he goes, "I informally order you to do this thing." It was a very funny moment. The studio audience laughed. So we were making this, and one of the kids there was bossing me around, and because I was a stubborn piece of shit, I was like, okay. And I thought as a joke, it would be funny to quote that Hamish and Andy thing, because everybody watches Hamish and Andy in Australia.
Ooh.
So I went, I informally... This kid didn't outrank me. We were both cadets, right?
Mm.
But he outranked me in like time only, I guess. And then the corporal that was overseeing it had a chat with me, and I shit my pants. I'm like, yes, corporal. Sorry, corporal. Yes,
That's
corporal.
so funny.
Yeah, right. Not only that, the Saturday evening we were doing an activity. So there was like this. You had to like get this glow stick that was at the end of a field, and a whole bunch of the seniors were patrolling the field. And you had to like prone and like get. You had to be the first one to get it, basically. Like it was kind of like tag, but what's it? Anyway, you kind of get the gist of it.
Deal.
Yeah. So, and if they caught you, you'd have to run all the way back. But if you were sneaky enough, you could run, like a shorter way back and then get down and then creep up. I was so bad at it that one of the seniors walked up to me and was like, "All right, let's do this together. Let's go. We'll get you as far up as possible." Now, that was bad, but again,
that's
I'm
what I'm
12.
saying. I can't picture you in this situation and like
This
not
happened.
having a breakdown and like not participating.
No, I participated.
Is this the moment that made Kobe? Like this experience
No.
like shaped you?
No. So yeah, I was indoctrinated by the army at a very young age. All right, and then the last bit is it wasn't we camped out in a tent. Now I was severely underprepared, as I always am for any camping endeavor. I've camped in a tent twice in my life. This was the first time. The second time was on Duke of Ed, but this was the first time. Now it wasn't necessarily
like talk about Duke of Ed on another podcast. What a wild thing.
So there was nothing necessarily bad about it, except what month would it have been in? I think it would have been in late September. And it was hot. It was hot, and there were bugs everywhere. Now, there's this thing that you can get called a swag, which is like a mini one-person. It's a mini one-person tent that you can just like zip up from the inside, and it's got like good airflow and stuff like that. It's good for one person. And you can get like mini ones. So what the guy that outranked me that I tried to informally order, right? He'd been doing it because his dad was making him doing it. His dad was in the army. Like, so he had a mini swag and stuff like that. I didn't bring anything as a pillow, so I was kind of sleeping on nothing.
That sounds like the Kirby I know. You'd do that shit today.
I was severely underprepared. And one of the people that were actually in the army, I forget what his rank was, but he had a twin brother who was also in the army, and they made for funny shenanigans. So to give a bit of context, every time somebody approached your encampment, you'd have to say, "Halt, who goes there? State your name and business." Right? This wasn't something. No, this was something everybody had to do because it could have just been some random.
They were bullying you. They were just
no. This wasn't specifically me. This was
fucking Kobe kid. We got. I just want to imagine.
It wasn't just me. It was everybody.
Want to imagine the scenario where they're all in on the bit. And they're all fucking with you.
No, the seniors were doing it as well. I think I've said it like twice the entire time. Right. Anyway.
Hang on. I'm going to pull this up. So as we said at the top of the show, we're streaming this episode live on twitch.tv/Slalt Cast. And one of our absolute favorite chat members, Choco, has just sent this image in. Oh, don't ignore what you're seeing. We just sent this image in here, and I think that's a perfect description. Now for audio listeners, It's kind of a vintage looking army photo where they have like soldiers with bags over their head and trying to like use echolocation, I guess, to find a pole. And there's one dude who just has no idea, and then Choco's drawn an arrow and said that's Kobe. And I think that's an extremely apt description. It's exactly how I'm picturing it in my mind.
So one of the nights, the night, one of those actual officers, I guess it was CO. I guess we call him a commanding officer. I don't fucking know. Had a ghillie suit, unbeknownst to like all of the cadets, like the newer cadets, right?
Mm.
So I've got so many cadet stories. I can tell these all to you.
Yeah,
Like,
I
they're
can't
all
believe
coming back
we've
to
done
me.
a podcast for fucking like 14 months and they've only just come out now. This is amazing.
So like it was maybe like 10 o'clock. Nobody could fucking sleep because so much shit was going on. There was one bug that would just go. I couldn't sleep. So this may have been like at 9:30, 10 o'clock. Like we're just chilling. We're trying to go to bed. And then all of a sudden, right, we hear a rustling in the bushes and we're like, fuck. Like I think nothing of it. I'm like, we're in the barracks. There's probably like a rabbit somewhere. It'll get scared off. Whatever. Fucking. So, fucking the next thing that happens is we just all hear "Wah!" and this guy stands up in a ghillie suit, and I am terrified. I shit myself. I don't think I cried, but I was very close.
I'm certain you cried.
No,
I'm sure
I
in your
definitely
memory you
didn't
didn't. A single tear streamed down your face.
It was, it was scary as fuck. Cadets was fun. I actually liked it.
It sounds like you have Stockholm syndrome.
No, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back.
Also, like looking at just like if you take like an outside perspective of that scenario, how old do you think the commanding officer was? Like, or the dude in the ghillie suit? How old would you say he was?
I think he may have been mid-30s, but he was one of those people that were mid-30s who like were clean-shaven, bald, so he kind of looked like he was in his 40s.
Anyway, so we have like an adult man who, and that was probably the fucking highlight of his weekend, was getting a ghillie suit and scaring some 12-year-olds, and he fucking does it every year. He had done it for the last 5 years and was going to do it for the next 20, and that was just like the high point of the year. And then afterwards they fucking like kicked out all your kids and they all had beers and was like, remember when I made that fucking kid cry with my ghillie suit? Oh, I just love like having like thinking about like school camps and some of like the characters, like the fucking counselors were, and just taking like the step out. We're like, damn, they were like super proud of like fucking with some 14-year-olds, huh?
Yeah.
We need to tell some school camp stories in later episodes as well, because we had some funny shit happen on our camps, dude. But we're getting to the pointy end of the episode. Unfortunately, this has been one of the great ones. I've noticed a trend, okay? Now, you did, at the top of the show, you mentioned perhaps negative contributions of a particular cast member. And I feel like this episode was another one that kind of led credence to that theory. But I'm liking this two-person pod format. I feel like we have some great chemistry, you know? Liberal thinker, far left, you know, open-minded, and you conservative, hateful, closed-minded. It's a nice dichotomy that we have going on.
Anyway, Dan, where can the kids find me?
Where can they find you?
I said me.
Oh, you fucked me over at the end there, you conservative bastard.
Dan, you know what that means.
No, you can't put one on the board.
I'm putting one on the board right at the very end.
That's so many on the board.
That's four tonight. It's better than what you did previous. I think previous you got like 7.
I did get a lot. This is an improvement, a marked improvement.
This is an improvement, but I did start counting a lot later, you know, and there is still a little bit more of the night to go. You can find me on Instagram at _55Kobe55_ or my band at South_bound_band. We've got some pretty exciting news coming up.
Ooh. Expect whatever the news is to get ruined by COVID.
And you can also find me on Twitter at Kobe55. Yes.
And you can find me at DanielF737 on Twitter and Instagram. Go follow my Twitter. I'm going to do a direct plug on my Twitter. I've been very active lately, tweeting about things only I care about. So it's great. Come laugh at me. You can follow me at DanielF737 on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow the Slalt Cast at Slalt Cast on all of the social media platforms. That is Twitter, that is Instagram, that is Facebook. Also TikTok. We do those. Haven't posted on TikTok in a while, not gonna lie. Need to get back on that. Need to get back on the horse. But make sure you also go over to twitch.tv/SlaltCast and follow the channel and click that little bell and it'll go ring-a-ding-ding. And if you do that, you'll get the live notifications whenever we go live. We stream at least twice a week, Mondays and Wednesdays, and the podcast happens on Wednesdays. I'm so scared of what Kobe's showing the screen right now.
It's a dog.
It's a dog. Okay.
It's a dog. It's our friend's dog.
And then make sure you head over to the YouTube, just search up Slaltcast and hit that subscribe button. We don't have a vanity URL of yet, but you can catch all of the video episodes of the podcast. Not only this podcast, but also our other podcasts, Footy Talk and on Indefinite Hiatus Weekly Roundup. And as a closing note, Kobe is going to sing us the songs of his people.
Fuck, shit, fuck. Oh,
I thought you were going to get the drums going, and then I was going to... Kobe, you fucked it up.
How did I fuck it up?
Not only have you played that song, not only have you played that song in the outro of, like, I think last week's episode, you didn't even play the fucking drop for me to fade out on. God, I'm so irate. You fucker.